So, I may or may not have ticked off a few of you with my thoughts on Boo Brothers yesterday, when I said the movie was bad, but it wasn't horrendous. Well, this might win you guys back, because we're about to take a look at what I consider, and what many people consider according to the consensus, the best of the three in the trilogy of the Superstars 10 collection Scooby-Doo movies. But for some reason, people still think it's one of the worst movies of the franchise. I don't get it. Prepare yourself for a very positive review. What's up? What's happening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Animation Station. And one suggestion for anything and everything animation, including a crime-solving dog and his friends versus ghosts. Sorry, I'm still working on it. But let's talk about Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. Gosh, I love this movie. This is not going to be one of those super cynical reviews like I was last time. Oh, no. This is going to be a very special, very positive review. Because I have little to nothing negative to say about this movie. And I'm just going to say it right now. Go watch this if you haven't already. It is the textbook definition of a hidden gem. It is a movie that no one talks about anymore. It's a movie that barely gets any mentions online. That I don't understand. This is a movie that I've been watching since 2004, every single Halloween since I first saw it. It is a fantastic movie, it is an awesome movie, and there is a lot to talk about, so strap yourselves in. This might be a pretty long review. I'm even holding the old DVD from my childhood, so yeah, there's some attachment to this one. But wait until my written review and we'll get into the actual little nostalgia story. But let's start with our, the plot synopsis. And like I said before, full spoilers, that's your spoiler warning. This one is also a bit more detailed than the last one, so this might be a longer review than usual. But trust me when I say this is a great movie and it deserves it. While on the road, Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy discuss the new job Shaggy has accepted as a gym teacher. Shaggy is reluctant about his decision because of the eerie weather and the overall location, because, he's a big scaredy cat. As the trio pull up to a school, they realize that it is the neighboring Callaway Military School. The Grimwood school Shaggy has a contract with is much more frightening and spooky. Naturally. Scooby gets flung across the moat to the door and is the first to enter the school and meet their new pet dragon, Matches, who sprays fire at Scooby. And that whole thing develops throughout the movie, and they reuse the gag a little one too many times, but it's still pretty funny, and I do like the way that, they reconcile in the end. Which we'll get to. Shaggy and Scrappy enter the Grimwood school as a drawbridge lowers, and they are able to walk across. The trio meets Matches and Miss Grimwood, discussing Shaggy's new job and contract. They also meet a floating hand. Yeah, you can tell where they got that from. Addams Family. Which helps them with their luggage. One by one, the girl ghouls, yes, because it turns out all of the people in this school are not only ghouls, they are the daughters of the Universal Monsters. Dracula, the Mummy, Frankenstein, Phantasm, and the Wolfman. It's as awesome as a concept as it sounds. One by one, the girl ghouls are met and introduce themselves to the gang. Sibella, Winnie, Elsa, Phantasma, and finally Tanis. Shaggy and Scooby by this time are already trying to leave the school and terminate Shaggy's contract, because they're scaredy cats. Shaggy, who is terrified, mentions how the girls are actually ghouls. The ghouls discuss their problem of not ever winning the volleyball championship against their rivals, the Callaway Cadets next door, and Shaggy agrees to stay and help after some coaxing, starting with early morning exercises the following day. Scooby starts noticing things not right about the Grimwood school, such as a pet piranha in the goldfish tank that ends up biting him in the tail later. Early morning exercises start with ballet. It's silly, but it's Scooby-Doo silly, so it's excusable. While the neighboring Callaway cadets are beginning their warm-up exercises as well. The cadets spy Scooby and Scrappy with a telescope and take note of the new coaches at Grimwood. They soon lose their volleyball to matches after a cadet serves the ball too hard and loses it in the hedge. I think it's called, right? The hedge? Yeah, the hedge. The cadets aren't able to practice for a while because Matches wants to keep the ball and even tries to bury it because, you know, he's the supernatural... He's the school's version of a dog, pretty much. Aside from the fact that he breathes fire. Continuing morning exercises, the Grimwood girls go for a morning jog and meet up with Matches, who is burying the volleyball. The Grimwood girls stop to eat some rotten apples, while Shaggy and Scooby stick out their tongues in disgust, because they don't like rotten food, because, obviously. Meanwhile, the Callaway cadets are working on a water balloon bazooka, which they plan to use to retrieve the volleyball, but Matches ends up returning it anyway, before they get it working correctly. So, what do they do instead? Well, the water balloon ends up hitting the, what was his name? Colonel Callaway, that's what it is, Colonel Callaway. It ends up hitting Colonel Callaway in the face and shrinking his hat to, like, Scrappy-Doo size. It's so freaking funny. Like, Colonel Callaway is a great character in this movie. Like, you think, like, this boring, strict drill instructor guy would be super boring, but the voice actor goes so over the top and is given so many cheesy, goofy lines that he becomes really likable and very funny very quickly. So yeah, I like Colonel Callaway. And I like all the Callaway cadets. Sure, it's not out of the norm of things we've seen before in a million other movies, but they're still likable, they have their own unique personalities, and they're all doofuses in their own way. And in a way that also makes them kind of charming. So, yeah. I don't mind the Callaway cadets in this one. I really like their characters. The gang meets giant fly traps in the garden as well as all the rotten food in the garden which the Grimwood girls like. In the garden, Scooby sees Venus spy traps which have been planted there to spy on the Grimwood girls. The first clue that they are being watched by Revolta, a terrifying spider witch who wants to use the girls to become the most powerful witch in all of Monsterdom. Yeah, your stereotypical generic, I'm going to use this to achieve this sort of plot. Yeah, the villain kind of sucks. I'll talk more about that later. Colonel Callaway visits Grimwood School in order to set the time for their annual volleyball tournament. Miss Grimwood offers him fungus fudge and toadstool tea, which he eats and drinks in disgust because she doesn't tell him until after he starts eating it, as he comments that it tastes moldy. Shaggy is introduced to Colonel Callaway, and they plan to play at 1400 hours, which Scrappy clarifies is 2 o'clock. You know, not before Matches decides to play a little trick on Colonel Callaway and set his seat underneath the chair on fire. Literally burning his rear end. Like, it's lowbrow, but it's so friggin' funny because it's classic Scooby-Doo slapstick. Like, it's not done in an insulting way. It's not done in a way to be, you know, annoying or anything like that. It's done in a way that fits the series' tone. And it fits here very well, and it's very hilarious. The ghouls warm up with scare aerobics and deep shrieking exercises. Get it? Like aerobics and deep breathing exercises. You know, everything is a horror-related pun. Like, buy into the cheesiness and you'll enjoy it a lot more. Trust me. And they scare the Callaway cadets with the loud screaming, as well as 2 talking vultures that are perched on the top of this freaking school. Colonel Callaway gives the cadets a short pep talk and tells them that they've got to win. Well, it's not really a pep talk, it's more of a win or you're getting drill exercises kind of deal. The girls finish their exercises with loosening their muscles in a short swim in the Grimwood moat, which isn't intentional. It ends up more happening because Scooby ends up plummeting into the moat and getting chased by alligators. I mean, not surprising, but it's pretty funny. Matches blow dries them off right before the match. Miss Grimwood calls Legs, the giant spider, over to repair the Grimwood net and boundary lines. In other words, pretty much stating that the boundary line, not the boundary lines, the net is made out of spider web. Soon the game is ready to begin. Elsa begins the game with a couple good serves. Soon they are tied at 10-10. Then Calloway takes the lead after Phantasma goes through the net. She's a ghost, she can go through things. I don't blame her for that one. Sometimes you forget when you're in the heat of a game trying to win. Next, Tanis serves the ball and scores a point. Grimwood now takes the lead. Calloway implants a control device in the volleyball so that they can control how the ball moves. You know, pretty much a cheat code in a video game is the best way I can try to describe it. They use a remote to make Tanis serve look bad, and they take control of the ball. Calloway takes the lead again until Scooby accidentally swallows the ball's remote control and squirts ketchup at the cadet who was serving it, which means that then the volleyball then hits the net, and since it's spider web, it stretches, not rips. It stretches, comes back, hits the guy with the controller in the chest, and then it goes over here while Scooby's about to enjoy a hot dog-like food. And then he swallows the remote, and the ball goes AWOL, hitting everyone in the face. It's Scooby-Doo, man. You should not be surprised that it's cheesy. Grimwood gets the next serve by Winnie, and they catch up back to Calloway. Revolta is shown to be watching the game in the anticipation. Winnie spikes the ball off the back of Phantasma, and Sabella gives the final serve. The remote control in Scooby's belly gets triggered again, and the ball moves back to the Calloway side of the court, bonking all of them in the head in the process. Grimwood wins, and Tanis finally gets the trophy for her mummy case. The Grimwood girls start setting up a Halloween party next, excited that they have won the annual volleyball game. For once, apparently, because apparently they've been losing that whole time. Miss Grimwood bakes brownies and caterpillar cookies. Shaggy and Scooby get scared as the monsters begin to arrive and they go hide in a secluded room. Revolta watches the monsters arrive through a spy trap. You know, in the middle of the rain. Real smart there. The parents meet Scooby and Shaggy anyway, and they believe they run away from them simply because they are gym teachers trying to stay in shape. Like, the comedy in this movie is so good, man. It feels like they did a complete 180 from the comedy of Boo Brothers. Like, they completely did a 180 and actually got really good jokes and writing in here. Soon they've all met, and Tanis' father, the actual mummy, thanks them for making Tanis feel like a winner. And it's cute. The Grimwood girls then present presents they have made for their parents, such as a lemon juicer for Papa Werewolf, a bat robe for Count Dracula, and a portable Shockman for Frankenstein Sr. Get it? Like a portable Walkman? This movie really leans into those spooky puns. Revolta watches the whole time through a spy trap, saying soon that the party will be over. Phantasma then plays a song with the floating hand as an accompaniment on a giant organ. The parents leave after the party is over, not before they all threaten Shaggy and Scooby to take care of their daughters, or it's, well, in the words of the Count, it's going to be a bat day for you. Revolta and the Grim Creeper plan to brainwash Shaggy. They send out a bat to go find him and brainwash him. Scooby sees the bat as it tries to enter multiple times, but Shaggy doesn't see it. It hides in the window shade, and later above Shaggy's bed. Not before Scooby ends up making a bunch of false calls not seeing the thing, and then he himself gets trapped in the blinds. Again, it's classic Scooby-Doo, man. The bat weaves webbed headphones, which Revolta uses to talk to and brainwash Shaggy. She tells Shaggy to take the Grimwood girls to the barren bog for a jog. Yes, I know that rhymes, shut up. To which he accepts. The following morning, the Calloway cadets wake to a homemade alarm clock and discuss their upcoming field. Yeah. I think the homemade alarm clock matches burning a chicken. Wait, no, the Calloway cadets, no. They made the alarm clock for their colonel as a birthday present. to discuss their upcoming field trip to the barren bog. In other words, it's a military drill. The same day, Shaggy is also planning to go, you know, pretty much setting up how the two are going to meet up later. Meanwhile, the Grimwood girls all get ready for their field trip as well, getting in Shaggy's van, which I think is the same red van from Curse of the 13 Ghosts? The 13 Ghosts of Scooby-Doo, if I'm not mistaken. It's the same red van. Miss Grimwood waves goodbye, not knowing the danger they're about to be in. At the bog, Revolter's sidekick, the Grim Creeper, get it like Grim Reaper, but it's Creeper because it's a plant? Awaits to capture the Grimwood girls. Shaggy isn't in a trance anymore, but is still excited to go for a jog through the bog. Winnie is the first to meet up with the Grim Creeper and his bats. The bats weave a pair of webbed headphones like those used to brainwash Shaggy. Winnie gets brainwashed and captured. Scrappy asks Shaggy how he thought of going to Barren Bog. Shaggy can't recall except that it might have been in a dream, because he doesn't remember being brainwashed. They don't watch where they're going, and soon they all get stuck in a swamp full of alligators. Second time for Scooby, he's getting chased by alligators. The trio realizes that the area is much more dangerous than they previously thought. Sabella transforms into a bat in order to save them. Meanwhile, the Callaway cadets are out hiking nearby and fall into quicksand. Well, most of them. One of them ends up staying with the Colonel while they go off on their own way, and they try to find their own way out of the swamp. And it miserably fails. Where was I? Tannis and Elsa see the boys sinking, and after making some jokes, help them out of the quicksand with a tree trunk. Because, you know, Tannis is Frankenstein's daughter, and in turn has his strength. Phantasma sees Winnie and follows her into a shack, not knowing that Winnie has been brainwashed, and gets brainwashed as well. That's 2 girls captured. Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy begin to look for the girls, realizing they haven't seen them around. Sabella is being chased by the Green Creeper's bats, and after a bit of a fight is also overtaken, getting, in Scrappy's own words, bat-napped. And then in Shaggy's own words, we have to get her back, or the Count will hold me accountable. Seriously, dude, you gotta buy into the cheesiness in order to enjoy this movie. Like, if you don't like cheesiness, you're not going to enjoy it, because it's not for you. It's leaning into the goofy cheesiness of the original 60s TV show, but in movie format with just Scooby, Scrappy, and Shaggy. I rest my case. Scooby runs into Grim Creeper, and Matches saves him with his fire breath as the Grim Creeper runs off. Pretty much the 2 of them reconciling and now becoming buds. You know, after Matches tried to set him on fire at least 3 different times. The rest of the girls meet up with Winnie and are tricked into entering the shack. Revolta uses a spell to send the shack to her castle, meaning all 5 of them are now captured. Shaggy and Scrappy see Sabella being bat-napped and begin to worry. After getting a push out of the mud by the Callaway cadets, Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy race to the castle to save the girls. And even tell the guys to come help, but they don't want to, because they're selfish turds. The entrance is hard to reach, so Scrappy builds a contraption to fling the gang and Matches up to the front of the castle. Which means that it works well for Matches and Scrappy, as they perfectly land on the edge. But then Scooby and Shaggy faceplant into the side of the cliff, just barely missing the actual cliffside they were supposed to land on. Which, whoops. Elsewhere, deeper in the castle, Revolta discusses how all the Grimwood girls will be made evil at the stroke of midnight with use of her evil potion. In her own words, revoltizing them. After entering by way of Scooby's tail as a key, again, leaning into that cheesiness of the 60s show, the gang splits up to search the place. A mirror monster scares Scooby and shows Shaggy a terrifying reflection of himself. The reflection pulls Shaggy into the mirror and frees himself into the real world, trying to be Shaggy. It's a pretty interesting concept, and I love the Demon Shaggy's design. It looks really cool. Elsa comes to clean the mirror and Shaggy asks for help. Elsa tells him she can only obey Revolta, being under her spell still despite not having the headphones. The mirror monster chases Scooby as he yells for help. Scooby stumbles among Tannis and asks for help, but she, like Elsa, is still under a spell. Scooby dresses as a mummy and pretends to be under Revolta's spell. Again, classic Scooby-Doo logic. They always dressed up to try and lure the bad guys somewhere or trying to sneak into somewhere. Like, nothing new here. If you don't like any of this kind of stuff, you don't like Scooby-Doo. Plain and simple. Soon Scrappy realizes Mirror Monster isn't Shaggy, after freeing his head from the bucket and seeing his actual face, and threatens him to bring back Shaggy. And after the Mirror Monster says that he's not scared of him, Matches then sets his butt on fire. Yeah, can you see why I like this movie now? He does it multiple times to chase him away, and he switches back with Shaggy, saying that the outside world is just too dangerous for him. Like, it's a filler scene and completely pointless, but it's funny, so I don't mind it. Scooby accidentally breaks into the room with Revolta's potion brewing in order to make the Grimwood girls evil forever. He's then caught by Grim Creeper, and then Shaggy and Scrappy and Matches try to warn them that they are in trouble, but they don't listen because of the spell. Then the trio look around for Scooby, who has disappeared. They run into a steel room the shape of a large pipe, the floor the shape of a camera shutter. The Grim Creeper holds Scooby above them, telling them that he has just begun to be mean. He opens the floor and they all fall into the water-filled bottom. The Grim Creeper warns them of the Well-Dweller creature who lives in the well tunnel, which is this giant, monstrous purple thing. The creature lurches towards them. Meanwhile, back at the Callaway School, the cadets decide that the Grimwood girls need to be saved, so they construct a foot-pedal helicopter and leave once the colonel isn't looking. You know, realizing that they were being turds and that they needed to go and save them. As in their own words, it's in the Callaway Code to help ladies in distress. Good on them for actually realizing that. That's actual character development. And the foot-pedal helicopter thing is really cool and shows how inventive the guys are. Scrappy starts a ball game with the Well-Dweller and tricks him into making a ladder for them to escape the well tunnel using his scales. Revolta attaches headpieces to the Grimwood girls for the flow of the potion to make quick work of making the girls evil forever. The girls start to twitch and howl. The Callaway cadets hear the girls screaming and fly over Castle Revolta. They drop water bombs into the castle as the Grim Creeper tries to catch Shaggy and Scooby, who have accidentally discovered secret doors to enter the room with Revolta and the potion that's brewing in the cauldron by the fireplace. Scooby and Shaggy, I can't talk today, accidentally knock off the headpieces which were going to be used to distribute the potion to the Grimwood girls. Revolta shoots magic at the water-bombing cadets and they back off. The girls then change back to normal, and Revolta changes Scooby into a frog as a last-ditch effort to scare them into conformity. Scooby as a frog accidentally knocks down all sorts of things into the brewing potion, you know, because he's being chased by one of Revolta's bats. And the formula is reversed. Tannis then steals Revolta's wand to change Scooby back to normal, and then Elsa tosses the wand into the potion, and Revolta stares in disbelief as the potion has been overgenerized and is now pretty much a bomb and will explode any second. However, the Callaway cadets return back up in the nick of time to save them all by flying away in the homemade helicopter. Revolta and the Grim Creeper try to go after the heroes on the broomsticks, but the potion explodes and zaps them, causing the castle to be destroyed and the two of them to plummet to the ground. Back at Grimwood, everyone's thrown a huge party to celebrate the success. Scrappy does a rap. It's as awful as you think it is. Soon, Shaggy and Scooby are introduced to a new set of students, and they run away in terror. Scrappy says goodbye to Matches and follows as the trio drives away. The Grimwood girls wave goodbye from the porch of the school. Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy howl a loud Grimwood goodbye and drive off into the moonlight. That's the story of Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. It is way better than Boo Brothers, it's very intricate, it is very well done, and it actually fully utilizes its runtime. Sure, there are a few moments that are just cheesy filler, but it's classic Scooby-Doo elements, and it's classic Scooby-Doo gags, so because of that, it's a little more forgivable. And me personally, I think it's a great story. I love the whole concept of having the students of this school that Shaggy and the others are being gym teachers at, being the monster daughters of the Universal monsters. That is like a perfect concept for Scooby-Doo. And they perfectly utilize it very well. And I love the designs for the girls. Like, they're all unique. They all perfectly fit with, you know, whose father they actually are. You know, like which father they belong to. And they all have unique, distinct voices, unique, distinct personalities, and they're all incredibly likable, incredibly entertaining, and extremely funny characters. Like, this is those one-off characters that I would love to see come back in modern Scooby-Doo, because I feel like they could really, really mess with this concept and have a lot more fun with it. You know, maybe make all the girls teenagers and solve a big mystery with Grimwood and the Scooby Gang and meet Fred, Daphne, and Velma and going off on like this big extra awesome mystery together. Like, that would be so freaking cool to see. But unfortunately, it's a one and done, and that part makes me sad, because I feel like they could do a lot more with this concept. They did a great job maximizing its potential, absolutely. But I feel like, especially with the teasing ending that shows more students and more unique designs of more classic monsters, they could have really leaned into this fully and just did a straight-up sequel. You know, especially considering how bad the next movie turns out to be, because the next one is flat-out crap. But we'll get there when we get there. Point is, this is a great story. I really love these characters. I think it really moves at a great pace, and even though there is a little bit of filler, it's classic Scooby-Doo slapstick, so it's excusable. In my opinion, great story that perfectly executes a fantastic concept that I just really wish that they'd bring back again. Maybe for like the 60th anniversary or something. That would be so freaking cool, and I'm sure a lot of fans would be really excited for that. But it's not looking like that's ever going to happen, so we only have this one. Oh well. Alright. Now, let's move into our voice acting. Next, let's fly through the ones that we've already done before, which is Don Messick as Scooby and Scrappy, and Casey Kasem as Shaggy, but he's also the voice of the Mirror Monster, showing, you know, how dynamic of a range he has, and he's great as the Mirror Monster. The Mirror Monster is one of those goofy, throwaway villains that you don't really remember a whole lot of, but you remember being enjoyable and very funny. Now we get to the rest of the cast, which is mostly new, but there are a few familiar faces. We have Glynis Johns as the voice of Miss Grimwood. She is fantastic in this role. Then we have Susan Blue as Sibella, and Sibella is probably the best out of all the girls, and probably, in my opinion, one of the best parts of the whole movie. She's such an entertaining, goofy, charming character. Not to mention, 10 out of 10 design. I'm not going to be surprised if they took inspiration from Elvira for that hair. Like, it looks very similar. Then you have Marilyn Schreffler as Winnie the Werewolf. Great job. Then you have Pat Music as Elsa Frankenteen. She's really good in this. Phantasma is voiced by Russie Taylor. Does a great job. Hope I'm pronouncing that right. Patty Maloney is Tannis and does an adorable performance. Like, she's the most adorable of all the girls since she's the youngest. Then you have Frank Welker, you know, Fred Jones himself as the voice of Matches, because he's done a lot of animal voices in the past, but he's also the voice of Papa Werewolf, and he does a great job. Then you have Zale Kessler as Count Dracula, and he is fantastic in this role. Like, his accent is a little over-exaggerated, but it's supposed to be. It's Scooby-Doo. You lean into the cheesiness. And if you lean into the cheesiness, you add a lot more to your performance. And this really works here. Like, even with simple lines where he says, like, "Let me che pirata the rain, Mr. Mommy." Like, he doesn't have to go that far to try and really stay in character, but he goes that extra mile, and he's great in this. And he's great as Frankenstein's monster as well, or Frankenstein Sr. as he's called in the movie. Then we have the Phantom of the Opera, voiced by Hamilton Camp. He's a delightfully spooky character. That's the word I was looking for. Delightfully spooky. He has one of those, like, old, grizzled voices, but also has, like, this malice to him. Even though most of the movie he is pretty in a good mood. But he gives that little tease right before he goes out after they all threaten Scooby and Shaggy to take care of their daughters. Not to mention a fantastic phantom! Well, foul-tempered phantom. I screwed that up. I'm sorry. Then you have Andre Stoka? I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name. As Grim Creeper and Mummy Daddy, they're both really good, but I think he's better as the Mummy than he is Grim Creeper. Then Ronnie Schnell is the voice of Colonel Calloway. He's an absolute delight. Then you have Aaron Lower as Miguel. He's good. Scott Menville as Tug Roper. He's good. Remy Auberjonois as Baxter. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Is good. Bumper Robinson as Jamal Williams. He's really good. Then you have Jeff B. Cohen as one of the grunts. They're okay. And then you have Ruta Lee as Revolta, who's good. Not great, but good. She's a good voice for the character. And again, really leaning into that over-the-top cheesiness of the Scooby-Doo franchise. You know what? Yeah, let's do some notes and trivia because I'm such a big fan of this movie. Scooby sees the credits in the opening. That part is hilarious. In spite of his appearance in the film, the front of the Warner Brothers DVD package has Shaggy in green pants. You know, because this is red shirt Shaggy, which is a bit weird. Also, Scrappy is not on the cover art in any of the commercials mentioned in the description or on the DVD menu, as if he wasn't in the film at all. This is most likely due to Scrappy's unpopularity and the fact that he was the villain in the 2002 movie. Alright then. In the OKKO Let's Be Heroes Halloween Special Monster Party on Cartoon Network, Enid's old friends are Winnie, Tanis, Elsa, Sabella, and Phantasma. The actresses all reprise their role. That is awesome. Like, I haven't seen OKKO in so long, so I forgot about that one, but that is awesome that they actually got the original voice actresses all back to voice their characters for just this OKKO episode. That's really freaking cool. Like, really freaking cool. I want to watch that episode now. Alright, now let's talk about some animation mistakes. When Sabella was eating a crab apple, she was wearing a headband, but before and after the run, she wasn't. It's Hanna-Barbera, they're limited on their animation. When Sabella is swimming in the moat, her eyes turn fully green except for her black pupils. Oops. Winnie's dress continuously receives and loses sleeves. Oops. Tanis's eye color changes to blue with a white iris when she gives her father her gift. I don't think that was a mistake. I think that was just to be extra adorable. So I'll give that one a pass. When they're driving off to the bog for their field trip, Elsa says goodbye to Miss Grimwood in Tanis's voice. Whoops. Then we have some inconsistencies or animation goofs. Tanis should not have been dragged into the air and onto a tree branch on her second serve during the volleyball game because in one shot, when her wrappings were stuck to the ball and moving it up when one of the cadets was trying to hit it, the wrappings were cut off from the screen, leaving only a small piece of it going into the air. But in the next shot, her wrappings look like they are still attached to her and the ball is moving along with the ball towards the tree. When Revolta's cauldron is about to explode and blow up her castle, Sabella says she can fly the others out, but only one at a time. This contradicts the earlier scene in the swamp where she looks Shaggy, Scooby, and Scrappy all at once to rescue them from a group of alligators. Again, oops. And despite this being from 1988, this didn't get a physical release until 2001. That's insane to me. It took 2001 just to get a physical version of this. I mean, it was the 80s, so maybe they were limited with what they could and couldn't do. And it was a teleplay made for TV more than actual movie theaters, which might have played into it, but Still, that's interesting that this took that long just to get released on DVD. And it explains how I was able to see it, and how, well, how my mom got a hold of it, so. Yeah, that's interesting. This is almost as old as me. It's only literally a month off. It came out on March 6th of 2000, right now. Now, I'm older than the DVD version, but I'm younger than the VHS version. Wait, no, I'm older. I don't know. VHS was released in 2001, and the DVD was released in 2002. So, this came out a year after I was born. Sue me. But, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, I've discussed some home media, which I've never done before. I discussed the very lengthy storyline, and I discussed the voice acting. Now we just have our written review. Let's talk about it. And this review is pretty lengthy, so I warned you this would be a long review, so if you're still here, that's your fault. Before we get to the actual written review, I want to share some very fond memories I have of this one. After watching Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island the previous Halloween for the first time around the year of, I want to say, 2003, I saw this one in my mom's DVD collection in 2004 and decided on that Halloween to watch it immediately after rewatching Zombie Island. And when the time arrived, I absolutely adored it and made it an official part of my Halloween tradition from every year forward. As it's been for years now. Even to this very day, I make sure to watch this at least once every single October. Even watched it with some friends back then, and they seemed to also quite enjoy it. Alright, now with the nostalgic story time over, let's dive into the second and by far best of the Superstar 10 Collection trilogy movies, 1988's Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy are journeying to a finishing school to be the new gym teachers for the school, only to discover that the school itself is a spooky and creepy finishing school for the daughters of all the classic Universal monsters. And even worse, the monstrous spider witch, Revolta, is hatching a devilish scheme to turn the daughters evil to take over the monster world. And on top of all that, there's still the volleyball game against the rival Callaway Military School. Yeah, the trio have quite the handful to deal with this time around. What immediately makes this an improvement over the previous movie is that it not only has a great concept, but actually fully realizes that concept and does a fantastic job in its execution. The Monster Daughters are actually really cool characters in both actual character and design. Sabella, like I said before, being the obvious standout. Just for me. That's just my personal opinion. The Callaway Military School cadets, while definitely simple, are really likable with varying possibilities and not just the same character copy and pasted over and over, which they could have done, but they went that extra mile, so I appreciate it. The voice acting is excellent, the jokes are surprisingly pretty good, the story is interesting, the pacing, while starting slow, is consistent from there on out. The volleyball game is so silly that it perfectly fits the Scooby-Doo series and is a lot of fun to watch unfold. The ending is good and leaves more potential for a sequel very, very well. Lots of twists and turns keep it from ever becoming boring, and the setting is refreshing and incredibly fascinating, and the runtime is utilized very well. I do have a lot of positives about this one, but it still has a few minor flaws that need to be addressed. Scrappy's rap song at the end is terrible, and I feel like that was not done on intention. The villains are very cliche and uninteresting, though the designs are still good. The second half of the movie, while pretty fun, is really dragged out and screeches the pacing to a grinding halt temporarily. Like, they spend a very long time in the castle. And unfortunately, any further potential was immediately thrown in the trash, making the ending feel like a complete tease that leads nowhere. And considering how awful the next movie turns out, it is seriously infuriating. Like, they had a good formula, they had something really good going here, and they just threw it all away in favor of trash. Seriously, huge bummer. Overall, though, despite these faults, I absolutely and unabashedly love this movie. I enjoyed it a lot as a kid, and even watching it now, I still have a wonderful time watching it every single year. Sure, it's not perfect, and there is a personal attachment out of fond childhood nostalgia, but even without that attachment, I'd still call this one of my favorite movies of the franchise. And the fact that the main consensus considers this as one of the worst of the series is confusing. Like, you guys think this is as bad as Boo Brothers, or as bad as Monster of Mexico, or as bad as Return to Zombie Island? Really? Really? I don't know, maybe it's just me. I don't know. Funny, creative, unique, spooky, and a ton of fun. Whether you're an adult or a kid, a lifelong mega fan or a newcomer, or just an overall lover of animation, this is the perfect film to get into the Halloween spirit. The final verdict for Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School is going to be an insanely high, almost perfect 9 out of 10. This is a great film. It's a great Scooby-Doo film, it's a great animation film, and it's just a great movie in general. I love watching it every October, and it has become a tradition for me ever since 2004 when I first saw it. It is a fantastic movie. It is a lot of fun. It is incredibly cheesy, but that's also part of the fun. It's cheesy, it's spooky, it's goofy, it's Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. It is an underrated gem that deserves far more attention than it gets, and I highly recommend you check it out this October and add it to your own Halloween traditions. Well, that's it. We've nearly doubled the amount of the last review. Well, probably tripled it at this point. We're at freaking 40 minutes. Holy crap. Thank you guys so much for watching. I had a lot to say about this one, and this is one that's always going to have a special place in my heart. In fact, you know what? Considering how terrible tomorrow's movie has to be, I'm going to go rewatch this again. Because why not? See you guys in the next review, where we review a piece of crap. Peace.